When I married David 3 years ago, I knew I wasn't just beginning a new chapter in my life with him. I was also becoming a stepmother to his teenage son, Ethan. At 16, Ethan was at that delicate stage between childhood and adulthood. But there was something about him that felt burdened. He was quiet, courteous, and respectful, but there was an undeniable sadness in his eyes that pulled at my heart from the very first time we met. Ethan had lost his mother when he was just 10 years old. David rarely spoke about it, but I could tell the loss had left deep emotional scars on both of them. While David had eventually moved forward, building a new life with me, Ethan remained emotionally stuck in that dark place, distant and closed off in his own world. I gave him space at first, assuming he needed boundaries. But the silence became too loud to ignore. Over time, I began to notice patterns. Ethan rarely joined us for meals. He would often excuse himself early or skip dinner entirely. His room became his sanctuary. The only light visible from under his door late at night came from his laptop or the bluish glow of his phone. He wore long sleeves all year round, even in the summer. At first, I dismissed it as teenage moodiness or a phase. But a mother's intuition, even a stepmother's, doesn't lie. One morning, while cleaning the bathroom after Ethan had left for school, I noticed a faint reddish stain on the sink. I tried to convince myself it was something else, maybe food coloring or rust from an old razor. But deep down, I knew better. I didn't tell David that day. I wasn't ready to alarm him without being certain. Instead, I began watching more closely. I noticed other subtle signs. Ethan's eyes looked hollow, as though he hadn't slept. He flinched when touched unexpectedly, and often seemed to drift away during conversations. My heart ached, watching him move through life like a shadow. That week, I decided to take small steps. I left little notes outside his door, simple messages like, "Have a great day," or "Thinking of you." I cooked his favorite meals, even though I wasn't sure if he still liked them. I encouraged David to spend more time with him too. And though Ethan didn't say much, I could tell he noticed. Then one night, something shifted. I was walking past his room when I heard it, a soft sound, like muffled crying. I stopped and listened. The sound came again, slightly louder. My heart tightened. I knocked gently. "Ethan, can I come in?" No answer. I waited a moment, then slowly opened the door. Ethan was curled up on his bed, his hoodie pulled over his head, shoulders trembling. My instincts kicked in. I sat at the edge of the bed and gently placed a hand on his back. "I'm here," I said softly. "You don't have to go through this alone." He didn't move at first. Then, in a voice so faint I could barely hear it, he whispered, "It just hurts all the time." My throat closed up. I blinked back tears, not wanting to overwhelm him. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked gently. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he said, voice cracking. "I feel like I'm drowning, and no one notices." "I see it," I replied instantly. "I've seen it, Ethan. And I've been so worried about you. You're not alone in this, even if it feels that way." That night marked a turning point. He didn't open up completely, but he let me stay. I sat with him until he fell asleep. In the days that followed, he began to slowly emerge from his shell. I brought it up gently with David, that we might want to consider therapy for Ethan. David was hesitant, not out of pride, but out of fear. He blamed himself for Ethan's pain, for not being able to protect him after his mother passed. But I reassured him that asking for help was the bravest step they could take together. Eventually, David agreed. We found a therapist who specialized in adolescent trauma and grief. It took some encouragement, but Ethan went. Though he was quiet in the beginning, over time he began to speak. He started to process the pain he had buried for years. At home, I continued to support him in small ways. We set manageable goals, joining us for dinner once a week, taking short walks, watching movies together. There were setbacks, of course. Some days he hardly spoke. Some nights, I still heard him crying. But now he knew he wasn't invisible. He knew he was supported. Months passed, and the change in Ethan was slow but consistent. He began joining us for meals, more regularly. He started opening up to David about school, friendships, or the lack of them, and eventually about how he had felt like he was fading away after losing his mom. The guilt, the anger, the fear, it had all built up inside him. One afternoon, Ethan came to me holding an envelope. "I wrote this for school," he said shyly. It's about someone who helped me when I needed it. It's about you. I opened the envelope later that night and read his essay, tears streaming down my face. He had written about feeling lost and unseen, about how the world felt unbearably heavy, until someone noticed. He wrote about my notes, my quiet presence, the way I knocked on his door and waited, never demanding, just being there. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever read. Today, Ethan is doing much better. He's not magically healed, emotional wounds don't disappear overnight, but he's on a path of recovery. He has a part-time job. He joined a school club. Last weekend, he even invited a friend over. David and I often exchange quiet glances of gratitude, amazed at the light slowly returning to our home. I never wanted to replace Ethan's mother. That was never my intention. But I did want to love him in my own way, to show him that even in the darkest times, someone cared. I couldn't erase his pain, but I could sit with him in it, help carry it, until he felt strong enough to walk again. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that silence doesn't mean someone is okay. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a note, a meal, a gentle word, can be the beginning of someone's healing. Ethan was struggling in silence, but once he knew he wasn't alone, everything began to shift. And for that, I'll always be thankful I listened to my heart and acted.